In scoring the art submission, the judges give each work a minimum of 0 to a maximum of 20 points in 6 areas. The scores are then averaged. This is because if a judge needs to abstain from rating a piece for one reason or another, it won't affect the score. The 6 areas encompass composition, creativity and innovation, technical skill, execution, the level of professionalism and craftsmanship in presentation of the artwork. The judge's choice, which is purely objective.
I can be very judgmental, but something it's a community effort. So you have to take into account your own personal criteria, and then there.
Came 2 or 3 hours before the show, and we walked around and we picked our top 5 pieces. And once we did that, again, we did not meet on it until after we picked our 5, and then we went around and kind of talked a little bit about what we saw. And it's interesting because the other 2 judges, we were all kind of on the same page with most of them.
And finally, the quality of the image used to submit a piece of artwork. Now it was time to hang the show. Our experienced events committee staff carefully hung or placed the works in the gallery, giving each piece good visibility and lighting. Finally, the day of judging. The judges spent the next few hours discussing the artwork between them, collaborating and deciding which pieces were to be awarded winners in the ranks of artistic merit, artistic excellence, and the judge's choice. All this brings us to here and now, tonight's opening and award ceremony. Thank you to all the members of the Wyoming Area Creative Arts community who have put in hours of volunteer time. It is because of you that tonight's opening is possible. And once again, I want to thank all of you for not only being here tonight, but for being part of your local arts community. It's because of you that art happens. Thank you.
All right, here we are. Can everybody hear me okay? No, because I turned myself down. How about now? That's a little bit better. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 7th annual In the Art Show. We are so excited to be here tonight. We had 156 artists enter into this show, and only 56 artists became finalists and were able to hang in the hang or be on the pedestals in the gallery here. Downstairs, we have artwork by the judges, as well as some board members and committee members. And the show is brought to you by Dave and Jan Freemore. We have a little display downstairs with some of Dave's artwork and Jan's quilt. We lost Jan. I knew I was going to do this. We lost Jan last October. Jan was a board member. And a dear, dear friend to all of us here at the Art Center. In memory of Jan, we have got an educational fund that we are donating to start some educational classes in Jan's name. Jan was always an educator. She loved being with kids. Even when she retired, she still was out there doing music and educating kids. And she was a bright, bright star in our community, and she is dearly, dearly missed. So Dave, thank you for sponsoring this show in Jan's name. Okay, so, I usually write all sorts of stuff down that I'm supposed to say. I didn't write any of that stuff down tonight because I'd watched previous videos of me doing this in art show, and I was like, man, that is really boring. So I'm not going to do all that stuff. However, I do want to make sure that we are talking about our sponsors, because we can't be here without all of the sponsors that has helped us out in this past year. And Kirk Breeze, he goes by many names, is going to talk to us a little bit about our sponsors and grants.
Yeah, thank you everyone for coming out. Sorry we had a little slow getting our feet outside.
Okay,
So
we have it?
yeah, hope everyone outside. Hey, it's here for the tent group outside. So yeah, we just wanted to take a moment to thank we thank Dave and the sponsorship that he's doing and all the work that he does around here. But we have a lot of other sponsors. We turn over a new exhibit every month, and so that requires a lot of, first of all, volunteers, which we're grateful to have, but also generous sponsors. And so we have a wall of plaques. Sorry to run around mentioning all of our sponsors. So you can view that, and there also should be in our booklet. But just to acknowledge from 2022 some of the sponsors and people that helped us in this rain-drenched sheet that I have. Just in no particular order, first of all, B&N Sheet Metal. They've been a long time supporter of us since the beginning, so thanks to Dean and his team. The Halbert Family Foundation, their name's on the building, but they also support our Songwriters in the Round series, which is the original songwriters every other month. Have one next Thursday outside here, so come back if you'd like, because we'd love to have you. Also thank Diane Johnson, who sponsored shows. Ben Anderson, who's our director of photography and #1 volunteer here, he also worked out the money to sponsor another artist, so we're grateful for an artist to do that for each other. Richly Tax and Financial have supported the show. We also have the in-kind helpness of Rick Aharts. Rick has been a supporter of the organization for a long time, takes care of our windows and a lot of our odd jobs, and it's been just a gem to have with us.
You got our beer tonight.
Yep, and to the Uncommon Loon and Rick, they donate. Rick hunted that down, and the Uncommon Loon folks donated those growlers. So, thank you to both parties. Also, Evergreen Coffee House here in Wyoming. It used to be known as Nesting Tree, I guess. Evergreen is awesome coffee, and every month, without question, they donate coffee for our openings. So if you need a cup of coffee in the morning, go to Evergreen. They're great people. First State Bank of Wyoming, again, a founding, long-time supporter of us. And they do our annual, support our annual Kids Can Be Artists too. At Stagecoach Day, we will set up our tents over there. On a typical Saturday, we have 500 kids come paint there. So if you're looking to volunteer, we'll take you, by the way. And thank you for the First State Bank of Wyoming for everything that they've done. Jeff Depke, who's not here today, but he does our filming and editing for our songwriter series without question. Nice to have him and just support him. And Anna Masocio, one of our previous artists, has now donated money to support our Black and White show coming up. So we have lots to go to our website, lots of opportunities to sponsor things, lots of opportunities to come support the local community gallery. So thank you all for coming out, and I think that's all I got, Jess.
Yeah, I made him do the boring stuff. No, it's not boring, it's very important. Yes, please applaud him. Thank you, Breeze. Yes. Breeze and I are now working as co-directors here at the Art Center, and I think we make a pretty darn good team. So thank you, Breeze. I also want to talk about the East Central Regional Arts Community. They are, it's not community, it's Counsil. I'm going to read it. These activities are funded in part by appropriations from Minnesota State Legislature, with money from the state's general fund and its Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund. This fund was created by a vote of the people of Minnesota on November 4th, 2008. These activities are also funded in part by the McKnight Foundation, and I just want to say that we won't always have that money, and we want to thank you guys that we do have that money so we can have activities like this, so that the arts are supported. So I just want to give a round of applause to our grant people. This evening's judges, I'm just going to say their names because is we've got these handy dandy booklets that tell a little bit about each one of them. We have Steve Forseth. Steve, if you would like wave your hand so everybody can see you. Steve is here this evening. He's going to talk a little bit about the choices that everybody made. Rita Dungy is here. Rita, are you around? And you can give a little wave. She's over there. There we are. Here's Rita. And then we also have Rurik, who is here somewhere. He's over there, and he's waving as well. Behind you. Behind you, Mr. Videographer. There we go. So, let's start this, huh? Who wants to know who the award winners are tonight? Yeah. We are going to start with the Artistic Merit Awards. Sorry. I'm going to walk down here. Our first award winner of the evening is a sculpture. It's always nice to have sculptures in these competitions. What's so fun about this art show is that it is art against art. Kyle Fokin is our first Artistic Merit Award winner with Song of the Sea. Would one of the judges like to talk about this piece? Yeah, really, I want one of the judges to talk about the piece.
Okay. This is a very interesting piece. You know, one of the things we discover is that we see these on our computers, and we really don't realize what it looks like until you actually see it itself. So most of the time, in fact, almost all the time, you're pleasantly surprised. This is a very interesting piece. I think a lot of you probably already observed this. You know, in art, I was an art teacher, and there's always something, even if you don't understand art, there's always something in there that either you like it or you don't like it. And one of the things that stood out about this piece is I saw the sailboat and I thought, oh, okay, great, you know, sailboat, and so, or a ship. But then I saw the intricacy of like a violin with the neck and then moving to the back, and it kind of follows the curvature, even the curvature in the violin follows the shape of the sails and works, you know, with the flags on top. So there's a consistency involved with it. Plus there's textural changes, and it just makes for an interesting piece. My focus isn't so much on, as an art teacher, whether it was realistic or not. It's the composition and how it breaks up the area. I always look for positive and negative space, and I think this accomplishes this in a three-dimensional form.
Any of the other judges want to say something, or did Steve cover it all?
I think Steve covered it well.
Okay, great.
I was just taken by the concept of creating this sailing vessel, cast bronze, right, Kyle? In the shape of a violin. I mean, that is just so cool.
All right, and we do have our artist here this evening for this award, and we're going to let our artist speak if they chose to. If they don't want to, just back up and pretend you're not here. But Kyle did want to say something about his piece.
Where's my check? We're in for the money anyway, right? Well, I promised Rurik I'd use all kinds of dirty words and stuff if I said anything like that. So, yeah, thank you. Appreciate this. I know how hard judging is. I judged this show a few years ago with Rurik, and I can't remember whom else. I understand just exactly how hard it is because it's such a diverse show. There's all these different skill levels and just different techniques and different perspectives on things. So I really appreciate all your help. I know it's a lot of work. But yeah, so the piece is Song of the Flying Dutchman, and it's I've done a few of these already. But the first incarnation was actually a cello that I found at a secondhand store, or as a school getting rid of a bunch of little cellos and violins. So then I started looking at it, it's like, this actually to me looks like a ship. So I made a large one first. And then I thought, well, I really should make a small one out of bronze. It's a little bit more easier to sell. It's a cooler piece. So the thing is that the piece is all totally me. I don't think I've seen anybody else that came up with this idea. So I think it's a neat piece. I mean, if you look at some of the details, there's part of a spoon that was used in there. There's some railroad features. So lots of really cool little things that are intricate and fun. So I hope you take a look at it. I better yet buy it. Make some money for the art center. That's always a good thing. So, thanks again.
All right, thank you. Kyle is our first Artistic Merit Award winner. The Artistic Merit Awards receive $200 in prizes. Yeah, exactly. Now we'll go to our next. We have 4 Artistic Award winners this evening. The next one is John Rodman, who created Fire and Ice in northern Iceland. And this is a archival digital photography piece. John, if you're here, feel free to come over. If you're not, then we're just going to have the judges talk about it.
This is one of the pieces that we kept recurringly visiting, and it is a masterful little photograph. I'm not a true diehard photography critic, but for me, a photograph needs to have some true black and some true white. I don't care if it's 99% black or 99% white, it needs to have the full scale. If you disagree with that, I'm sorry, but I'm the judge. However, this piece is wonderful because it obviously hits on that. The design is wonderful. We do not have a mid-range horizon line. You've got the rising of the dark. You've got the encroaching of the light. You've got the mid-ground. You've got the steam. You've got the clouds. It's a piece that, for me, I like to revisit with my eye and just go, oh, I'm happy over here. Well, wait, I'm all happy over here. Oh, look over here. So it's a piece that you can keep finding new interesting things in.
Thank you, Rurik. Is John here?
Yes, he is.
Did he want to talk? All right.
Hold the mic right up.
Yeah, I don't have too much to say. I went to Iceland with Leicester, Miami in February, March of this year. Saved up for a year to go on this trip, and I just love winter landscapes. I love black and white, so it was a perfect marriage. We went to Iceland, and I basically got out of the car, I was with a private guide, got out of the car, walked about 5 feet out of the parking lot, and this was the scene that greeted me, and I said, do I walk into the, people were sort of going along here towards the more interesting aspects of the landscape, and I just said, no, the clouds are going to change, I'm just going to stoop down and take this picture. So, you couldn't go wrong there.
Good call.
Yeah, fabulous
Good
place.
call.
Yeah.
Thank you, John. And the award will help pay for that trip, right?
That's right.
All right. A little bit. Thank you very much. That is John Rodman, Fire and Ice, Northern Iceland, Archival Digital Photography. That is our second Artistic Merit Award this evening. Now we're going to head into the queue for our next Artistic Merit Award. This one is Jeff Bracken. It is called Silence. And it is an oil on board. And I think Rita wants to talk about this one, yes?
Yes. Sorry. Oh, sure. I kept coming back to this piece. It's, as you said, oil on board. Title is Silence, and emotionally, it definitely evokes a sense of calm and peacefulness and silence. I appreciate the way light is treated in this painting, and the perspective, the sense of depth that's created by the river, and of course the dark background and the suggestion of the trees also gives a great sense of depth. Like I said, all the judges kept coming back to this. There's something about it, and I think it's that peacefulness that is evoked. Very simple palette, which I think is also calming.
All right, great. That's a good name. Silence is the name of that piece. Would either of you, Steve or Ruth, like to say anything, or did
Just, yeah, a couple
Okay.
of things I really kind of enjoyed. As you get closer to it, you see more detail. But I kept envisioning like there's a boat or something around the bend that has a light on top of it, and it's shining the light on the shoreline, and it's just about to come around, and I'm not sure what it is. I don't know if I should be scared of it or think I'm welcoming it, but it invites you to wonder what's going on. So very fun.
I think that's a really important part of art, is inviting people in, right? All right, our fourth artistic, sorry, I'm not letting you speak, Rick. Our last Artistic Merit Award for $200 is number 39, Mary Moivison.
Mavison.
Mavison. Did I miss?
I know how that.
All right, so this is Mary Mavison. Is Mary here, and would any of the judges like to speak about this piece?
Mary? Come on up, Mary.
So let's have a judge talk first, and then Mary will have you say something about your piece. I didn't ask if Jeff was here. Oh, Jeff is here. Oh, okay. Sorry, we're going to go back and have Jeff talk about his piece. That was my mistake. You didn't want...
It says silence, so that's... Yeah, as the name implies, it's just silence. It's a peaceful place. It just stirred my soul. And as I said in my description, the light source is up to the viewer. It could be a ship with a scary light, I don't know, but or the sunset or sunrise. But it was just a peaceful place in my soul, and I was lucky enough to put it there.
Thank you, Jeff. Sorry for missing you on that one. Okay, so now, which judge would like to talk about Mary's piece? It looks like Rita again.
I'll say something. Mary is a personal friend of mine, so I did not judge this on the online judging component, but I'll share what I appreciated now. The rich texture is something that I really appreciate. The variety of edges that she uses. She's got a lot of soft, organic edges, very natural colors. But then these pops of pink, in 3 places, move my eye around the piece. And there's kind of a repetition of the diamond shape here, 2 there, and 1 down there. And then there's another very subtle one. So I just find there are a lot of interesting textures and colors and elements that move my eye around the whole piece. This is oil and cold wax, and I know she uses many layers, and I sense the depth with those layers. Steve or Roy?
I would actually like to speak to the act of how we judge. So I've done this a number of years, and so we've had the issue of abstention. Like, when do you abstain from judging a person's art? Is it because you know the artist? Is it because you are close to the artist, etc.? In my case, this evening, I had to abstain from Kyle Fulken's piece because I had known him and have worked with him. Rita knows this particular artist, so she had an abstention too. We finally kind of created a consensus that it's not, do you know the artist? I mean, we're all artists and we all collaborate in the same small realm. Hey, I know you. Well, you can't necessarily call that an abstention. We finally created the criteria of an abstention. Is it somebody you paint with, in Rita's case? Is it somebody that you've known for a number of years, in case of Kyle? So I abstained on there. So Rita abstained on this piece. Yet this was on my list to receive an award. So we had our discussion, and Steve and I kind of got to dominate that one. In the case of Kyle's piece, Steve and Rita were the ones that were more the decision makers. So I find it really interesting that we can still be very fair while still acknowledging the quality of some of the people that we've known for a number of years. This is just a wonderful piece. And if you look downstairs, my stuff is crazy real. I love doing detail stuff. This is not this, but this hit my radar because of the design, the color, the technique, and it just sucked me in. It's a beautiful piece, and that's how we do things around here. I hope that helps people understand.
Thank you very much, Ruth. Mary, did you want to have something to say?
Well, I'm thrilled. I'm absolutely thrilled. I started in January working with diamond shapes. And this is the only piece that survived my experiments. So, and I picked it up, put it down, and like Rita said, I use lots and lots of layers. I scrape back, I scribble, coat it again, take it off, and that's what happens. So, yeah, thank you. I'm just, I'm thrilled. Never wanted anything, so thank you.
Hey, thank you, Mary. Now, folks, we are moving on to our Artistic Excellence Awards. These are $300 in prizes. And the first one we're going to go into is in the center of the Art Center. So I'm walking this way. This is a digital photography piece called Lower Falls Gooseberry, and it is by Tomas Alvarez. Would any of the judges, like to speak on this piece?
I hope you all get a chance to see this piece. It's quite amazing to me. Again, I'm the guy that's in the composition. I like to look at shapes, and I like to look at positive space and negative space. I like to look at balance of the piece, formal or informal balance. And one of the things that, when I first looked at this piece, I looked at the dark areas. I looked at how the green area balances off the falls and down in the stream area here. So I'm looking at the spaces in between the trees and seeing how it all seems to work together or play well together. And this one definitely does. But I think what the real treat was, when I saw it and got closer to it, was the detail of the bark on the tree. It's amazing. It's very powerful, and it balances, and the roots balance off this heavy rock side over here. So, and I think the softness of the falls, the way that was done digitally, works very, very well. And like Rick, I'm more into painting and sculpture, and those were my mediums in printmaking. And that's, even though I love photography, I used to have a Brownie camera when I was about 7 years old, and I'd go around the house shooting pictures. My mom would always take the camera away from me because I was shooting pictures where I was supposed to. But anyway, that's another story, but I always liked photography, and I always never liked to put everything right in the middle. I always wanted to put things off to the side. So I see that in this piece, and I think it's really, really well done.
This is another piece that we came back to several times because it's got a very good variety of textures, of colors, of design, and we had a really good discussion about the technique of photography on this being a little bit of a longer exposure, whereas you can see the details of the roots, yet the falls and the waters tend to blur out. It tends to be, I'm not a photography guru, but it's a multiple second exposure, and which is why things get a little bit blurred there. And so part of the joy of being a judge is when you get to have those conversations about not just the artistic merit, the technique, but also how the sausage is made.
Thank you, Ruth.
I don't have much more to add to that, except that my sense is this photographer is really showing us what he loves, and what I think we all appreciate in nature. I mean, there's water, there are trees, rocks, and it's a scene that I think one would never tire of. Beautiful, simple. There's something in foreground, middle ground, and background that just keeps the eye traveling around the whole photograph. So we all loved it.
You know, one thing in this particular piece is that a lot of us picked, I've done 4 or 5 of these shows, and this is by far the hardest show I've had to judge because the works were all so good. In fact, we went around and we made scores and we thought we'd go with this group. And I don't even know if this was in the top 3 or 4, but we kept coming back to it. And then we kept coming back to it, and all of a sudden it moved up. So, the judges here, it's not just take a glance, put a score down. It's actually looking at everything and then coming back to it, and looking at it again and coming back to it. And so this one made it into a high award just because it just kept drawing us back. So, it's good.
And I wanted to mention that when the judges were here today, it took them 3 hours to do all of the judging and to pick the finalists for this evening. So they put a lot of time and effort into it, even on the day of the award ceremony. So we really appreciate that as well. Also, you'll see that there are numbers on the labels. These labels were flipped, so the judges did not know who the artists were. They only knew the number of the piece, and so they judged off of the number of the piece rather than like the name or the actual artist. So that's something that we do again, just, keep it fair, right? All right, we are going to move on to our next Artistic Excellence Award. Who doesn't love Gooseberry Falls? I love going down up to Gooseberry Falls. We're moving up to this area, and our next winner is number 15, Deanne Sibley, Farm Girl. Yay! And it looks like Steve is going to talk a little bit about this one. No?
Yeah.
He's shaking his head.
Yeah, no, I can.
Okay.
Yeah, I love this print, or this photograph. I think all of you do. But when you go up and you see it, is that you? Oh my goodness, here's the model right here. You are, you know what, you're precious in this photograph, but you're even more precious in person. So, yeah, stand right by it and then turn it around. You guys got to get a picture of that. That's great. Do you have a name for the chicken? Is there no name? Okay.
Yeah, that chicken doesn't. Do you know which chicken that is? It's brownie.
Oh, it's brownie. That's great. Again, I think what caught my attention is the texture of all of the items, the feathers, the material of the jeans and the shirt, and the hair. I mean, the hair is terrific, and the look on her face is just unbelievable. So this one, this was one of the works that stood out when I went through all 150 of them. So, good job.
Rita wants to say something as well, and I know that Deanne is here.
Thank you.
Like Steve said, I was taken by the texture of her hair, the feathers, the fabric, but I also found it interesting compositionally how her arm framed the chicken head. I mean, obviously this is primary dominance in terms of where the eye goes, but then there's a secondary framing of subject number 2. And I also appreciated her hand down in the area of the chicken's legs. I don't know if it was posed or not. My sense is that she was busy doing her chores, and was it your mom or your dad who took the photo? Oh, Deanne, okay. I get the sense that mom maybe stopped her mid-chores and captured this frontal, I'm busy with my work here, and this is my chicken that I'm taking care of. So there's kind of that serious expression that is very endearing.
Deanne, did you want to have something to say?
Sure, I will.
All right.
So this is my new friend Nora, and we had to postpone this little photo shoot because
If you look really close, she has a black eye, and she got kicked in the eye with a soccer ball like the week before. So it just kind of adds to the toughness of being a farm girl. And like I say, she's the horses, chickens, goats, everything. They have it all. So she was an awesome model. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Yeah, that is number 2, Artistic Excellence Farm Girl, digital photography. So I don't have to go very far for our next Artistic Excellence Award. We're going to step right here. Number 49, Susan, I'm going to mess this up, Feigenbaum. If she's not here, then it doesn't matter how I pronounce it, right? This is called Success Story. It's a ceramic glaze, underglaze, and silver leaf sculpture piece. Would one of our judges like to speak about this piece?
Yes, please. This isn't very under the radar piece. When judging, you flip through the slides and you go from piece to piece. And I know, again, just enough about ceramics to be dangerous. But this really struck me because of the complexity and the fragility of the piece. On half, you've got this wonderful little texturized figure with these little green dots, and on the other side is a melange of mixed purples with almost a stripy face, and this little crux of where the figure meets the pedestal. And when I say I know enough to be dangerous, I know that these type of things, when you're firing clay, are extremely fragile. I tried to take a look at this. I'm not sure if it was actually glued. I don't think so. So for them to be able to actually pull this off, to sculpt it, glaze it, get it to the kiln, burn it, and get it out without fractures, without stress cracks, without breaking, is technically a very beautiful thing. On the artistic side, as I mentioned, the texture versus the smooth, the colors are beautiful. The little cone base is delightfully subtle, yet still full of texture and detail. But I'm sorry, unfortunately, it's easy to walk by. But I picked this one up and I'm like, guys, you got to look at this. You got to check this one out. And so we gave it an award, and it was well earned.
It's Susan Feigenbaum's success story. I guess it is a success story. Is Susan here? Would she like to say anything? I don't see anybody waving their hands in the air, so we will move on to our 4th Artistic Excellence Award. And again, I don't have to walk very far. The judges are making it very easy on me this year. Number 37, Mary Catherine Solberg. Oh my. Somewhere over the rainbow, this person is an award. Would one of the judges like to speak about that and let me not sing it?
I will start. Well, thank you for that lead-in song. As we all know, Dorothy is an iconic figure from The Wizard of Oz, and obviously she gets the attention she deserves in this piece. But when you get up close, of course, there are many other images that she's incorporated, including some repetitive patterns that I want to move my eye around, because there is some similarity, and it's like, oh, there's another one, there's another one, there's another one. So for me, it's got a wow factor from a distance, and then up close there's this discovery of, here's some Asian script and images. So it's just full of surprises. For me, it's like being at an amusement park and wanting to just travel all over the piece and take it all in. Anyone else?
I can tell you I know a little bit about this piece because when she dropped it off, she talked to Breeze. And there was a tornado in Fridley X number of years ago. I don't remember the exact year. Breeze probably would. But it's kind of based on that, and that's why the prom dresses are in the artwork and the mixed media. So she kind of based it on that. A prom dress shop had gotten hit by the tornado. That addition is important, right? So that's why the prom dresses are in there. Did any of the other judges want to say anything? You don't have to. And is Mary Catherine here? Okay, we're going to say yes. Let's give her applause. Thank you, Mary Catherine. That was our 4th Artistic Excellence Award. That's a $300 prize. Now we are going to move on to the Judge's Choice. There are 3 Judge's Choices this evening, and then we will have a Director's Choice. The Judge's Choice is a $500 award, and our first one, again, they made it easy on me. I get to move a little bit further down here. This is an oil and cold wax on paper by Marjorie Moody, Boats with Sunset. Marjorie's here. You're welcome to move up here and give us a little chat if you'd like to, but we're going to have the judges talk about your piece first.
This was one of my first picks as I wandered around the gallery. So again, how the sausage is made. We show up at noon, we walk around for probably about half an hour, and we individually pick the ones that we like and put them in the categories, and then we debate down. This was one of my first picks as the upward. And what I loved about this piece was the color choice, the variety of shapes in the ships, the fact that you took the sun, which is obviously like we're humans, sun, boom, it's going to be one of the big darn things, right? No, it's just this little thing up here, but more importantly is the reflection of the sun and how it reacts with everything else in the piece. Color-wise, this is a wonderful blue, orange, yellow. Design-wise, it's a nice diagonal that takes your eye around different places. Technically, I like to think that I know my stuff, but I looked at this, I'm like, painting, pastel, and then you say it's some oil and some cold press and some wax and some, I don't know what else, but so I'm pleasantly surprised there. It's a beautiful piece that works on multiple levels.
Yeah, I think all of us, this one grabbed our attention. Those of you familiar with Impressionist art could see a little bit of that. As you see these shapes, these almost like geometric shapes, take the shape of sailboat. Like Rarick said, I really love the way the yellow of the sun, I'm going to say sun, comes down and reflects on the water. One of the things you're teaching students is they'll make the sun yellow and they just leave it yellow. And you would tell them, take some of the colors that are in your piece and bring it up into the sun. It'll still look yellow, but it'll unify your entire piece. And she definitely has captured that throughout the piece. So I think really, really well done. Very fresh. This could have been a muddy painting, but it wasn't, you know, and it's because of her skill of handling the brush and the Next.
Marjorie.
Marjorie.
Well, thank you so much.
piece, Marjorie.
Thank you so much to the judges for picking that piece. I'm shocked, but I really, really appreciate it. And thanks to the center here for having this show. It's the first time I've entered the show, so I'm really thrilled to be here. And I do a lot of oil and cold wax since 2016, mostly abstracts, and yet I do plein air painting too, and I do little watercolors, from life. And so I thought, well, I'm going to try to combine the kind of the abstract and the realistic. And I've tried to do that over the years without a lot of success. So I thought, I'll try it again. And this was a piece I did that I was trying to combine. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marjorie. How fun that was your first time entering. That's really great. All right, our next judge's choice, our second of the evening. Again, it's a $500 prize. If the artists aren't here this evening and they have won a prize, please see me after the show. because as Kyle said, where's the check? We're going way over here for this next judge's choice. This is by Gary Carlson. It is the Archer's Phantasm Found Object Assemblage Sculpture. And I'm looking for a judge to talk to us a little bit about this piece. Steve?
This was one of my favorites. Again, as I've already mentioned, I really like to look at how shapes work together. And I'm looking at what I would call an informal balance, meaning that you don't have the same thing on both sides, but the weight of these objects versus this side really balances the piece off. It works well. I feel where the smaller pieces were put in versus the larger pieces balance very, very well. You have a strong vertical line with the bow, and just being able to, the same with the ship, just being able to see something, looking at something, maybe you go into a junkyard, you find some things, and you say, you know what, I think I can make something out of this, and make it a creative piece. It's pretty amazing, and that's the artist. So congratulations, this is a great piece.
Rita, Rook, do you have it? Steve kind of said it all, or Rook, you got something to say?
I always have something to say. Gary Counsil has entered this a number of times before, correct?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
And every time I basically fall in love with his work. He does just these wonderful collage things. So, being a guy and an artist, what do? We collect stuff. I have some chains from 20 years ago. I don't know, I might use them. I got some wood from 10 years ago. I don't know, I might use them. Look, some banjo, an old guitar, you might use them. Gary is the one who actually puts this stuff together as opposed to just having a truckload of stuff. I mean, this is just wonderful the way he puts these things together. It's the balance, as Steve mentioned, the different asymmetrical design. All of a sudden you've got a bow, you got some of this, you got that, and then what's the contrast? Oh look, a ruler. Who puts that together? These are just wonderful collage assemblages. I enjoy seeing them every time that I'm asked to judge. It's wonderful work and well deserving of first place award.
Gary Carlson. And Gary is going to say a couple words about this piece as well. I'm guessing that he has more than just a small building full of this stuff. I'm going to guess it's maybe a giant pole building, but I'm guessing.
Pretty much. I was a drawing artist up until about 2003, and I retired from teaching in high school, at Montreal High School, and I saw my wife doing this interesting found object stuff, and I decided when she was away at work, because I retired earlier than she did, I would steal a lot of her stuff. I'm bad. What my work is all about is composition. It's about trying to find. It's about finding dissimilar objects that have different past functions, and it's about finding commonalities with those objects. They might have a similar line, a similar color, a similar texture. And how can I balance these things? How can I unify the whole by using all these similar things? And that's my challenge, and for me it's an exciting thing to work with every day. But I think for any observer, if you were watching me do this, you'd be bored to tears. It would be it's a very reactive process. I have a big pile of junk that I go through, and I find an object to start with, a substrate, maybe a background, something that I think is kind of interesting, and I'll put it on my workbench, and then I'll go out and find something that looks like it would play well with that object. So it reacts from one piece to another. It's kind of like my intuition just takes over, and I don't even know where the time goes. But by the end of the day, I've got something that looks like it could be attached together. And usually if it's a big piece, it's out on the floor so I can stand over it and get an overview of the composition, or I might put it on a bench. And I never know where it's going to lead. And sometimes I'll figure out if there's a message or a social statement, or something about it, maybe when I'm 2/3 of the way through. But oftentimes like this one, it's all about formal composition. How I can take the lines and the shapes and the colors and the textures and all these things, and how I can put them together to create a balance to the thing, and how I can move the optical movement around so that it doesn't fly off the composition, or the psychological balance of one piece as it relates to it. You know, I could have a lot of mass on this side and just a one tiny little object or something happening on this side that would tend to look like it balances up. I could go on for my students could testify to that.
Thank you, Gary. Our second Judge's Choice Award for the evening. Congratulations. Our third and final Judge's Choice of the evening, the storm came on a little bit earlier now. So if there are people outside and you feel safer inside, please feel free to come in. Yeah. We are moving on to the third and final Judge's Choice Award. This is by Cara Jo O'Connell, Rosemary and the Finch. I saw this piece and I was like, I have a feeling this is going to be a winner. So would one of our judges like to speak on this piece, please? They're coming.
Oh, so many things to say about this piece. I think we were all taken by it. I was especially taken by the texture of the lines in her face, her hair, and the texture of the feathers. Her work is about, I believe she's doing, are you the artist? Oh. I believe she is doing a body of work having to do with aging, and I believe she interviews her subjects, photographs them, and then does a painting, kind of exploring something that is inevitable, passage of time and the changes. I think the whimsical part is the bird on top, and the other thing that drew me to this was the unexpected orange line and the polka dots in her gown or her shirt. I mean, there's a lot of fine detail and realism in the face, and this is a little rougher and in some ways, to me, unexpected, which is what I appreciate oftentimes in a painting or a creative piece, is something that just kind of stands out, like, you know, why is this line around her face? It could be maybe a shadow that's being cast against a wall that she's standing next to, perhaps, or it could just be a way to draw more attention to the detail of her face.
Rurik or Steve, would you like to say anything?
Yeah. This one caught my eye right away when I saw it on a computer image. Again, I'm looking at forms and shapes, and I like to see how things work against each other. You look at all the folds in her face here, and the smoothness of her nose. The smoothness of her nose brings out the texture more of the side of her face. So she has done this. One of the toughest views to do in a three-quarter portrait is sometimes the eye on the left side. I don't know if it's intentional, but it looks swollen. So again, it kind of caught my eye. The hair, the texture of the hair. And I think, you know, at first I wasn't sure I liked the orange piece going around the edge, but then I thought it really brings the face out a lot more. And I think I really think it worked. So you've got the feeling of skin, of hair, and feathers in this little bird. You see her face, and then, whoops, your eyes go up, and they see the brightness, the yellow, the bright colors always come forward. So you see the finch up there, and I think it just gets your eyes moving around it really, really well. So I'm really impressed with it.
I'm behind you now. I watch her on the building. I'm behind you now.
Oh, okay.
All right. That is Cara Jo O'Connell, Rosemary and the Finch, our final Judge's Choice Award. We've got our Director's Choice next is Cara Jo here, by chance? Does she want to speak? All right.
This is Cara.
Cara, sorry. Come on up and say your name properly.
Thank you for including me. I really appreciate it. Thank you for including me. I really appreciate it. That's all.
All right.
Thank you.
Short and sweet. We love that. Thank you. All right. So now our final award of the evening is the Director's Choice Award. This award, for I think the first 3 or 4 years that we had the In Art Show, the events committee and the curators would come and they would hang the show, and they'd be like, oh, I really like this piece, I hope this wins something, and oh, I really like this piece, I hope this wins something. And oftentimes we were really disappointed because the piece that we liked the best wasn't picked, right? Because everybody views art differently. So we wrote into the grant finally, we're going to have a director's choice so we can have a say finally over which one we like the best. And then we found out that that wasn't any fun either, because then we have to judge all of these pieces and pick our favorite, which is really, really difficult, right? As definitely the judges know, and as you guys know, because we also have the People's Choice Award. And that award runs through the end of the show, which is September 17th. You get to pick 3 pieces. If you haven't gotten a People's Choice ballot, please feel free to enter that, and we are going to announce those at the end of the show. And those are the People's Choice Awards, and the first place, I believe, gets $300, second place gets $200, and third place gets $100. So you guys also have the opportunity to be a judge for the In Art Show. So thank you very much. Now on to the Director's Choice. This piece is by Naomi Hart. It has a really fun, long name, Flawless Affirmation, Far Beyond the Ordinary. This is an encaustic mixed media piece, and Cadence is one of our events community members, and she's going to tell us a little bit about why we all chose this piece.
Thank you. So this piece, like Mom said, there are cats out of the bag. She's my mother. So this is an encaustic mixed media piece. Encaustic art is a tradition that started back in 100 AD, ancient Rome, ancient Egypt. That's where you start to see this art form. Essentially, encaustic art means that there is some sort of wax being used to either color the piece or to kind of fuse everything together. And so you get these really intricate and interesting layers upon layers where you have transparency and then opaqueness developing throughout the layers of the piece. This is a form of art that is very difficult to master, and the thing that we really just appreciated so much about it is the way that you can see the creative process in the piece. As I said, this encaustic is it's developing with each layer, and so as the image is forming on the canvas, as you're laying down all of the different pieces, you're starting to see shapes, you're starting to see forms develop in the piece. And so there's a real sense of spontaneity in this creation of the owl and the owl's face. It's coming out of the piece, out of those layers into conversation with you as the viewer. And there's this lovely moth that appears with really beautiful, delicate line work in the wings of the moth and the face of the owl. And you have this really beautiful balance with these 3 different creatures, the owl, the moth, and the heart in the piece, and so it gives this sense of whimsy and it gives this sense of wonder. So just all around a piece that I think really brought us a lot of joy to look at and experience.
All right, thank you. She did a really good job. She did. So that is it for this evening's awards. I wish that I had do any of the other judges want to say something about this piece? Oh, Rurik is coming over.
No, I'm sorry, I don't necessarily want to speak about this piece, but I would like to say thank you to every artist that contributed this year. I would also like to say you made our jobs really difficult because there was such a high level of quality this year. It's not just walking in and going, oh, A, B, C, D, you know. This was walking in and going, everything's an A or a B. How are we going to do this one? So thank you to everyone who contributed. And I say this facetiously, you made our jobs tough, but that's what makes our jobs fun. I would also like to say congratulations and thank you to the Wyoming community, art community, and the Arts Center for all the hard work you put in all of these years, because this obviously shows that each year the quality, the quantity, and the participation goes up every year. The last thing I would like to say is that the judges will be around for a while. If there are any of the artists that would like to talk to us about your piece, why we liked it, why we didn't like it, why it did or didn't get an award, we'll be around for a while to talk. And we're here to give you any sort of feedback we can. And especially since it's still raining, you might want to take us up on it.
And I didn't ask for Naomi to come down because she had sent us a Facebook message earlier today saying, I tried really hard to get down there, but I'm not going to be able to make it, so I knew that Naomi wasn't going to be here today. Again, we've got the People's Choice Award. Next Thursday night on the 25th, we've got Songwriters in the Round. Would love to see everybody come down. It's going to be outside because we've got this inside. And Panini, the great Panini is outside. They're going to be here until 8 o'clock. So if you are hungry, go on out there and grab yourself a Panini.
One last acknowledgement.
And Bree says one last acknowledgement.
I'd be remiss, most all of you dealt with our founder, Eric Peterson and Carla Peterson. We call them our South Campus down in Florida. They're very much part of our community and work tirelessly with the judges, with all of the input on the computer work and our websites and our posters. So Eric and Carla, thank you. We appreciate it and we love you much up here.